Should we get started? I think we got a quorum. We might as well get going. Um, Welcome everybody. My name is Rob Daines. I am the Associate Dean for Global Programs at the law school. I'm not sure what that means other than I have to give the introduction to this information session. I am joined here today by Emily Berry, who's the director of the Global Program at Stanford Law School, and Curtis Milhaupt, who has primary responsibility for the Franke Fellows that we're here to talk about today. The game plan is I will tell you just a little bit about the program. Curtis will give you the details of the curriculum and our travel plans, and then Emily will answer all your hard questions. So if you have compliments or something nice to say, offer them to Curtis, and if you have criticisms, then I guess you give them to me, but just general questions, give them to Emily. She'll be monitoring the chat, so you can throw them out in the chat, or we'll just try to have an open Q&A at the end. So that's the game plan. As you know, we're here today to talk about what we think is a pretty exciting and unique opportunity at the law school. It's the Franke Fellows. This will be our second attempt, but at it. Our first version was interrupted by a pandemic you may have heard about. I want to tell you a little bit about it today. I'm going to talk for about 3 minutes, and it's motivated by two really simple principles, and that's the extent of my intro, to just flag what I think are uncontroversial principles, and that is that the world today is, if you're going to train to be any sort of a useful lawyer or advisor or professional in the world, you have to be able to deal with international problems, the problems posed by people and capital and services crossing borders. You know, deals are global, investments, disputes, political problems, climate problems, clients are all global. You know, the world in any meaningful sense is global. So therefore, a good lawyer needs to be global. Law schools, not so much. You know, we sometimes talk a reasonable game about international, but international offerings at law school at our peers are often heavily concentrated on international public law issues, and the curriculum has not, even in the business law or sort of explicitly dispute resolution, has not really kept pace. So motivated by the idea that the future sort of was going to belong to the people who can nimbly negotiate these international issues, we're happy to announce this new fellowship that is intended to focus and prepare lawyers and advisors for an international world. So that's the first principle. The world is global, therefore you need to be global. The second principle is that law schools are a little bit better about creating opportunities for people to think about and study litigation than they are about sort of the world of transactions and business. Now, a good chunk of you think, or historical records, about half of you end up doing something more on the deal side, the transaction side. And we've been a little light on that in law schools generally. So we're happy to announce something that is intended to do both. That is, sort of think international and sort of think the equivalent of the Supreme Court clinic for those that are interested in litigation. We want to do something relatively similar to that for those of you interested on the business side, policy and transaction. So thanks to the generosity of an alum, we are going to select this spring, 22 fellows to be Franke Fellows in Global Business Law. And all of the fellows who will be selected will be invited to come on what we're calling the Global Quarter in the spring of 2020. We're going to pick 22 students. It's going to be international. It's going to focus on business law. And we're going to try to do all aspects. We're not just going to be counting or like talking about IPOs and, you know, meeting founders. We're interested in we're interested in deals and disputes. So both of you, both of the types that are interested in litigation and in transactions, we're going to try to cover both of those are important for international businesses, and also, you know, public policy issues that are raised when you think about a multinational. So we're going to do deals, disputes, and regulation. This year, that when I say this year, I mean next year in 2020, we'll be going to Europe. Future instances of this global quarter will focus on other areas of the world, but for a variety of reasons, driven largely by the pandemic, we thought Europe would be the right place to go in 2022. It'll be fulfilling pathway B. It'll be experiential for those of you interested in that. And it's fair to say it's going to be hard work. So I don't want to show you a graphic with an airplane on it and think this is a spring break. This is going to be hard work, but we think it's going to be worth it. So those are the two principles. High quality fellowship. We'll have activities through the year and meet with interesting people and policymakers on campus. And then we'll go to Europe for 3 weeks together. And to give you a little more sense of the details, I am going to hand the baton over to Popcorn to Curtis Milhaupt, who's going to be leading the Europe part of the trip.
Okay, thanks, Rob. And let me add my welcome to you. And let me just echo what Rob said. I mean, you're all here in this information session, so maybe it's preaching to the choir, but whatever area of law you wind up in, it's going to have a cross-border component. I'm pretty confident of that. And so the idea of this program really is to deepen and broaden our approach to business law education. So that's the basic concept here. And so the way the program will be structured is 7 weeks of intensive coursework on campus. And you see the list of core classes here. And they fit into these broad themes that Rob was just talking about. Rob and I will co-teach the Global Business Law and Policy Seminar, which will be kind of directed toward preparing for the trip. And we're going to cover, at least in an introductory fashion, some of the big topics, which I'll get into in a minute, that we'll be experiencing in the field study. And you see the other list of required courses there. For someone, maybe perhaps someone would have taken IBT before this, or maybe you've taken international arbitration. So there's also one elective course, Introduction to Finance, that you could take to fill out the quarter. So these are all required courses on the left-hand side here, 9 credits, and you'll also be given 5 credits or earn 5 credits for the field study for a total of 14 credits for the quarter, as well as Rob said, fulfilling your pathway B requirement, so that if you don't want to, you would not have to take a clinic. We're obviously happy to answer more questions about the required coursework. So that's how we start with the 7 weeks of intensive coursework, and then we go off for 3 weeks for the field study. We have 3 countries and 4 stops planned for you. 5 if you include Oxford, apart from London. So the first week is in Geneva, Switzerland. As I'm sure you know, it's the headquarters of several major international organizations, the WTO, important branch of the UN, which does human rights related work. And we have contacts there who are very generously helping us put together a program. So there'll be some joint work with students from the University of Geneva. The basic focal points of this week will be, as you can see here, data privacy and regulation. As you may know, Europe is out ahead of the United States in terms of a framework for data privacy, the GDPR. So you'd be you'd be learning about the GDPR and contrasting it to what we have or don't have in the United States. We'll also focus on, and really one of the themes that will run throughout the entire field study is so-called ESG. Those of you who are in my corporations course have heard a lot about ESG. It's really, it's becoming more than just a buzzword. This stands for environmental, social, and governance issues related to corporate activity. And whether you're in the United States, in Europe, or in Asia, ESG has really gained momentum as an important topic. Boards of directors, investors, all need to be aware of ESG issues and the requirements and the expectations that are being ramped up on corporations to do well across these various measures. We expect to get to the UN and talk about, for example, the human rights aspects of international business, another extremely important topic. So that's week 1. Then it's on to London for the second week, with a stop, I think a 2-day stop in Oxford. I should point out, obviously, we're still a year out from the trip. much of this is still being built out, but nonetheless, we've made substantial progress. We have developed and identified partners in these various countries. So we've made a lot of progress already in building out the schedule. As you may know, London is an ecosystem, a kind of startup ecosystem hub, has a very vibrant capital market. So we'll be focusing on the UK's startup ecosystem, venture capital investing, again, ESG. Also, a big theme in London will be international dispute resolution and international arbitration. We'll also learn about Brexit and the impact of Brexit on the UK. And we'll spend a couple of days, I think the current plan is a couple of days at Oxford, where you'll interact with Oxford law students. And we're developing a problem set around ESG, both the counseling aspect of ESG, what do boards of directors need to hear about ESG, and the due diligence aspect of ESG, which is what kind of diligence needs to be done before you do a cross-border acquisition. What do you need to know about the ESG activities and profile of a target company, for example? So we're building out exercises that hopefully will be done with Oxford students, kind of tease out the differences in ESG between the United States and Europe. Okay, then our third and final stop will be Germany. We'll spend a couple days in Berlin, a travel day, and then a couple days in Frankfurt. Here, one of our main themes is going to be fintech, which you may or may not be familiar with. Fintech is simply the use of the internet to deliver financial services. And it's a very new business opportunity, new business model for many firms really around the world. And it's raised all kinds of interesting regulatory issues because financial regulators have been used to dealing with bricks and mortar banks, investment banks and the like. And now they're needing to come to grips with a completely different animal. So in Berlin happens to also be a major startup ecosystem in Europe. We'll meet with fintech firm founders. We'll meet with law firms that do a lot of VC-related work. Again, you'll have a chance to interact with law students from Humboldt University. And we'll talk with others in Frankfurt as well. You may know Frankfurt is one of the major financial capitals of Europe. We'll meet, excuse me, we'll meet with banking regulators there. There's also Goethe University has what is a center called the House of Finance. And it's quite likely that we'll be able to set up some programs, some lectures, and also chances to interact with students from Humboldt University. So just stepping back from the detail for a minute, what we're trying to do is put you in scenarios that are very similar to the ones that you would be in as a lawyer, doing deals, doing dispute resolution, doing regulatory work in a cross-border setting. That's one major goal of the program. And the second is to really provide opportunities for you to interact with law students from around the world, see what they're thinking about, engage in a problem or a negotiation with people who are coming from a different legal and cultural background. And then finally, we want this to be fun. It's not just all going to be work, of course. In each of these locations, there'll be cultural activities. We'll take a tour of the city. We may have an alumni reception in the evening, so you can meet SLS alums in that given location. So apart from the hard work, we're also going to have a lot of fun on the program. So on the topic of hard work, I'm going to turn it back over to Rob to talk about what you're actually going to be producing as part of the field study.
Essentially, we'd like you to be in the role of a general counsel or sophisticated transaction or litigation lawyer providing advice to a global firm. So we're going to ask you to prepare each other by doing pre-student briefings, pre-visit briefings before you'll write short papers introducing a particular topic. You'll summarize Brexit for your classmates, or you'll be assigned a particular area of fintech or help people get ready for Berlin. We'll have case study that we'll be working through. Sometimes there are large foreign investment projects around the world that generate litigation between the country government and the multinational. We're going to work through some examples of that, how those are resolved typically by arbitration rather than litigation. We'll have you do client memos and mock negotiations with students and memo about what you learn. Essentially, you're going to be writing as a lawyer, acting as a lawyer, and you'll be enough work that you'll get 5 credits for the 3 weeks we'll be abroad. So where are we? Curtis, I think, summarized really well the goal, which is to put you, give you experience, the kind of experience you wouldn't just get in a textbook of what it means to have a global business, to create and to litigate disputes. It'll be international. You'll get 14 credits. You'll be meeting with practitioners and students all around the world. And now we get to something that's maybe relevant to you, especially the travel, the lodging, and most of the weekday meals will all be covered by the generosity of our alum. So that'll be included with, if you're awarded and a fellowship, it'll cover all of the expenses that I've listed here. You'll have some incidentals, just as you would if you were living in Palo Alto, but the big expenses we will all cover. So if you're interested, what do you need to do? There's an application that'll be due May 17th. This application is not binding. If you're interested, you just fill it out and submit your transcript and the application as described. We hope to contact people in the first part of June. And at that point, we would ask you for a commitment as to whether or not you like to take it or not. You'd still be able to, if you decide to take a clinic during spring quarter instead, we can talk about that then, but you'd be free to do that. The prerequisites, we expect you to have done corporations before, and you might wonder what we're looking for in the applications. We're looking for smart, hardworking people who are easy to get along with and interested in an unusual experience. So work ethic, there's going to be work. If you're going to be with somebody for 3 weeks, hopefully we're going to have a set of peers that are enthusiastic and able to consider out of the box learning opportunities. So that's the game plan. May 17th, fill out the application. We'll hope to let everybody know by the second week of June before the deadline for clinics closes. So if you weren't lucky enough to get a fellowship this year, you would know that in time to apply for a spring clinic if you'd like. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And we've talked quickly, but it's pretty simple. But I thought we'd stop now and take questions. Feel free to put them up in the chat or to text or to chat Emily Berry, and she can answer or subcontract them. It looks like, Emily, why don't you run? You might want to look for people raising their hand. I see a few people.
Alana, I'll jump in. I'll call on Alana. Raise your hand.
Awesome, thanks. Thank you so much for the presentation. For those of us who are 1Ls and who were not able to fit in corps this quarter, do you know when it's going to be offered, either fall or winter next quarter?
Yes, great question. It's going to be offered both in the fall with me and in the winter with Professor Klausner. So you'll have 2 opportunities to take corps before global quarter starts.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Sure.
Sam?
Yeah, so I have a question about how often the global quarter will be offered. Will it be an annual thing? So the thing is, if I don't do it in 2022, will I be able to do it in like 2023?
Yeah. Emily, do you want to take that? Oh, she's muted.
I'm muted, sorry. Yes, the plan is that it will be offered annually. So if you decide not to do it this year, and want to apply next year, you're welcome to do that. Someone else has asked if there are plans for Asia again after 2022. I'd say at this point, that's unclear. At some point we'll offer Asia again, but what we'll do after 2022, I don't think we've made any firm decisions yet.
Thank you.
Let's see. Any other
We have
questions?
Ryan and then Dolan.
Hi, I thought I'd ask a little bit more about the application process. I'm curious if there's any like preference given to like 3Ls or 2Ls. And then I'm also curious if it's like a blinded process or like how much into our backgrounds you guys go and do. Just curious on that kind of thing.
Let's see. So your first question, is there a preference for 2Ls or 1Ls? No, I think we're probably looking for a mix of both 2Ls and 1Ls. In terms of how much of your background we go into, we ask for a resume and a transcript and a short essay. And we do ask for a list of a couple of references from your 1L year that can speak to, you know, your qualifications for the global quarter. But as Rob said, we're looking for students there's no particular kind of background we're looking for. We're looking for students who are eager and interested and, you know, they think it's something important for their career.
Yeah, I'll only add, we're looking for a mix of public and private, some people with international experience and some people who've never left, you know, the United States. So we're thinking about it as a whole group. So I'm afraid that's all the detail I can give you. We're not going to be hiring a detective agency, Ryan, to look into you other than that.
I would just add that what this means, practically speaking, is whatever your background is, we welcome your application. We don't have any preconceived notions of, you know, we need 5 of this and 3 of that or anything like that. We're just going to try to put together a diverse, interesting group that seems like they're going to get along well and really get a lot out of the program, whatever their previous background.
Dolan and Tyler?
Thank you so much. This sounds absolutely fascinating. And as someone who's particularly interested in international arbitration, I was just wondering, while I understand this is probably still an evolving situation, are there going to be any visits to, say, the Swiss Chamber of Commerce or the London Court of International Arbitration?
So we haven't nailed down the exact locations, but we do plan on visiting several places like that, including barristers' chambers and people who actually are doing the arbitration and meeting with a couple arbitrators who specialize in investor state arbitration in London.
Thank you.
Tyler?
Thanks. I just had 2 quick questions about the application. First, I was wondering if there's an optimal length for the statement of interest.
No, I don't think so. Just, you know, however much space you need to describe, you know, your background and your interests, it's fine. There's no specific length we're looking for.
You do not get extra credit for making it long.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And then for the references, I noticed the application said 2 1L professors. So for rising 3Ls, you don't want references with professors we took classes with this year?
That's correct. We're looking for references from your first year.
Okay.
Sorry, not to, but we'll take second years as well. Right.
I think the important thing is to pick someone who can actually speak to, you know, both academic qualities and also personal qualities. I just, you know, I want to emphasize that we're going to spend a lot of time together. We're going to be on the road together for 3 weeks. And so, you know, we place a premium on folks who are going to be team players, as I've said before, who are going to get along well and who are going to be flexible and deal with, you know, there's going to be things that get canceled or the bus isn't going to show up or whatever it is. And, you know, we want folks who are going to take it in stride. So people who can speak not only to your intellect, but also your personal qualities would be really helpful to us. So yeah, I think if you're going to be a rising 3L, be perfectly fine to have references from second year professors as well.
Thank you.
I'm getting a question
Natalie.
here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Should I wait for the question in the group chat?
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
and
go
ask.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I just had a clarifying question regarding applications as well. I'm sorry if it's been answered previously. I was 5 minutes late onto the call, but I was just wondering whether there's an interview component as part of the application. It sounded like there was a little bit of lag time between the deadline to submit applications and the notification process. So I wasn't sure if interviews with the professors would be built into that, or if there's something similar going on.
No, there's no interview component. It takes us a while to get everyone's applications together and review them and make decisions, but no interview component.
Thanks.
We might call you up and follow up if there's something we don't understand or ask a quick question or something like that, but that's the only interview-ish kind of thing.
Duly noted. Thank you.
There's a question in the chat about whether students who are not selected to be fellows can still take these classes, the Global Quarter classes, and the answer is that you can.
With one exception, and that's the Global Business Law and Policy Seminar. That's only for the fellows.
And the classes are on a reduced, in an accelerated path. So there's 7 weeks instead of 9. It's just one thing to keep in mind.
That does raise, for those of you who will be third years, you'll be back in time for graduation.
Yeah, you get home about 9 days before graduation. The program ends 9 days before graduation.
Roger.
So if there were folks that did the program last year who we wanted to get in touch with to talk about their experiences, would that be at all relevant for this quarter since they presumably didn't travel abroad or do the 3-week study program?
I think that many of the students could still probably speak to their experience on campus, and we're happy to put you in touch with one if you'd like us to.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. I'm getting
some of you may know. Oh, sorry. Some of you may know Phil Wilkerson. He did the on-campus section, and he's volunteered to talk about his experience. If you know Phil, you can hit him up.
I'm getting a question in the chat about the assessment for the 7-week courses, whether there are papers or exams. I'm going to turn that over to Rob and Curtis because I'm not totally sure. So I think it's a combination, but.
So it's just whatever those courses normally do. In IBT, it's normally a paper, and there'll be a short paper. Corporate finance, if you take that as an elective, has neither, just has problem sets as we go. I think if you take the advanced contracts is a final exam, and the arbitration, I can't remember. So the answer is a mix in any event.
Yeah, it's the same as Rob said. It's the same requirements that you would take if you were taking the course in a regular, in a normal quarter.
Well, going once, going twice. All right, then we'll end with the invitation.
We got one. Josh, you snuck in just before he rang the bell. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll sneak in and ask a question right before we end here. I was wondering, kind of on a lighter note, if there are any kind of like cultural activities that'll be prepared to kind of enjoy the culture of being over there that aren't strictly academic.
Yeah, sure. I alluded to this. Maybe I didn't emphasize it enough. We definitely will work in cultural activities. I mean, the current plan would be essentially to start every visit with a tour of the city, or at least early on in the visit to have a tour of the city of some sort. Of course, there could be museum visits. As I mentioned, we're going to set up alumni receptions in various places. there could be myriad different things. I know last year we had thought about, cooking classes in a various venue and things like that. So these things will, are yet to be developed, but absolutely, we're going to have fun. In addition to working hard, we certainly want to experience the places that we are and do relevant cultural activities in those places.
Thanks to Josh for ending on the important note. I appreciate that. We will have fun. So the only thing I'll say is Emily Berry and Curtis Milhaupt and I are happy to answer questions. It's a unique program. I will say I've checked out the programs at all our peer schools, and although deans say this all the time, I'm pretty sure this time it is actually true that we're better than all the others in this case. I'm not sure. I don't think that's true generally. We've just been through Admit Weekend where there's been a lot of that shoveled around, but this is a pretty exciting opportunity. So feel free to ask us questions. And with that, we'll say goodbye. We'll stick around in case somebody is shy and wants to ask a question later. But thank you all for coming and for your interest. We know you.
Yes, look forward to seeing your applications.
Thanks.